Okay. Hello, hello. Nice to see you. Nice to see so many nice people. Okay. Um, Mehmet, let's see. You're talking about cores. I think Nitro Nuxt should support cores out of the box. I'm not entirely sure what the issue is, but maybe you could explain a little bit more. And yeah, so this is what I thought. Why don't we get started and just do it? Just build Nuxt assets to start with. It's a bigger project than just one stream, but we can start, right? So let's start a module, which is going to how we're going to build it. We'll call it Nuxt assets with a module template. And let's see what we can do. Okay. Okay, let's see. So we have the Nuxt assets folder out of the box. It is a new Nuxt module. So you would do this if you were starting a new project. That is a module. Let's make the text a bit bigger. Why am I not using NuxtCNG? That is a very good question. It's just muscle memory, honestly. So do you want to see how that would work with NuxtCNG? It would be like this. So npx NuxtCNG init Nuxt assets to t module. And that will install the new edge released NuxtCNG module. And if you haven't come across the new Nuxt CLI, have a look at this. We're going to pick pnpm, and it's going to install the dependencies as well as download the project, which is pretty cool. And there'll be some this is just really this isn't a big feature release. That's just a very nice thing, I think. But it's just the beginning. So we'll do that. We'll move Nuxt assets to Nuxt assets. And if you want to check it out, you can because it's open source now. Don't tell anybody, but it's open sourced at Nuxt CLI. So it's all there, and yeah, PRs, issues, whatever, very, very, very welcome. Pizza, hello, good to see you. So, but yes, check out Nuxt CLI. Anyway, so we have our new Nuxt assets project, which we're just going to open again here. So the VS Code knows about it. Refresh, done. Okay, now we're going to start this new Nuxt assets module. Now, if you don't know about the RFC, so I just 3 hours ago released this RFC. And so this RFC is for a new way of talking and working with assets in Nuxt projects. So it will be able to do things like, for example, if you were to reference an external font in your CSS, it can install that, download it for you and make it part of your project by default. So there are a couple of different things that this is able to do. So it has different kinds of strategies. And we're, today, I thought we could just show maybe some of the exploration of these features. I have no doubt that this is all possible, by the way, but I haven't actually built it yet. And so that should be quite fun. So let's see. I think one of the things I am interested in, hey, nice to see you. So there are a couple of things that we might explore building today. And let's just create a little to-do file, and we can stick some stuff in it. So we'll have actually someone suggested rather than a to-do file, like a to-do.diff. And so then you could actually have like minuses and pluses for different tasks, or to-do patch, I think might need to be called. Does VS Code support this by default? I might actually need to install it. Anyway, it's not worth it. But it's an interesting idea. What's the SSH ID? This is just a bit worried now. You're going to come in and join me. This is just a virtual machine I threw up. I throw up a virtual machine before a stream so that it does. Basically, it's my video card. It's my my MacBook Air that is streaming this. And I think the issue is that I have a really, really wide screen. So basically, the video card gets totally stuffed. And so I find it's easier just to make sure that all my code is actually running in a different machine. So I just create a virtual machine, set it up. I now have a little script that does it, and it's fun. Well, I think you would need to have, it's public key encrypted, so you shouldn't be able to log in to it. You're welcome to try that. Please feel free to try that. And if you get in, I would obviously be very, very, very worried, but you know, it's not like there's anything secret here. It's just what you're seeing on the screen. So what we're going to do is, I'm using an M2, but yes, it's a MacBook Air M2. So we're going to start with downloading assets. Well, those were the issues the other day, but I actually now have a new, better solution, Alvaro. So next time you want to come on, you'll totally be sorted. Because when I got Nexel on, we used a different and better solution, which worked perfectly. So we want to download assets to public directory. We want to download this is strategy public, bundle, and proxy. Okay, so these are three of the strategies we want to be able to implement. Public bundle. This is also very interesting, and we also have a proxy strategy just out of the box. There will be more. There'll be more coming. Okay, so how would you go about doing something like this in a Nuxt module? Obviously there's going to be a lot that enables other people to hook into it, and we're not going to, yeah, that's a really good idea, I'll do that. Just to sort of specify what we're actually looking at. So let's pin this link. Okay. So, okay, to start with, let's figure out, is it possible to bundle something? So, say in a Nuxt app, we are, hold on, please. We are wanting to, say, import from a remote something. So maybe we want to, let's see. We'll use Google Fonts as an example. Okay, so let's open Google Fonts, and let's grab a font. So we have a font, and we want to embed it here. I actually don't want to download it. I don't want to download it. I want to see the embed for it. Where is it? Yeah. Okay. There. So this is the style sheet that Google Font gives you. And if you actually access that style sheet, you'll see some stuff here, right? So we'll just grab, say, this as a font face and paste it in a style block. So that is, and we'll remove some of the stuff here. We just want Roboto, okay. Now, if we do something like this, I think I might need to run, I did install, but I might need to run dev prepare to generate all the Nuxt types. The font weight really doesn't matter. That is extremely thin, but like for the purpose of what we're doing here, all I care about is this URL. So we've got our sort of app up and running. Now out of the box, Vite is going to try and resolve this for us. I hope. So let's just pop a Vite module in place, a plugin. And this is going to have a, what's going on? Oh, yes. That's our new Nuxt telemetry thing. So if you were having problems before with being able to pick like yes or no, it was not working that well. But Sebastian just merged a great fix the other day, which makes it very nice. And hey, Biscoitus, nice to see you. Okay, so we have our Vite config, and we're going to want to basically add a resolve. There are a couple of hooks here that are going to be relevant for us. I just want to show what they all do. So we're just going to pop up some logs for these different. We're going to call this resolve URL, and we're going to log out our resolve ID. We're also going to log out the file URL. And what else do we want to log? We might want to, I think probably we don't need to handle that, just resolve ID and file URL. And we'll basically say, okay, Nuxt dev playground, or maybe build playground is going to be better. Okay, so you'll see that we should be logging some stuff. What are we logging? Come on. Let's try this again. So we get here an ID and an importer, and we should be able to log those out, right? Why is nothing being logged? Oh, it is being logged. It just we're not seeing a great deal. Let's make that a little bit more interesting. Okay, so you can see what we're actually calling with the resolve ID, and we can make this resolve a few more things by making it a pre, so it will be called first, basically before other resolve hooks. And you see there's lots of stuff that's being called with resolve, but particularly we would be interested in anything that's CSS related. So let's just filter that out. If ID includes CSS, then or WAF2, and we'll log it out. Okay, so you can see what we have like available to us, what the things are that Vite is calling us to resolve. There's lots and lots and lots of CSS, which we handle in a number of different ways in terms of the in terms of our style inlining plugins in Nuxt itself. We also have this resolve file URL, and we're going to be able to, in there, handle a couple of other things. So what have we got? That's going to bind them as options. I think this is a single hook. No, this will be called more than once. Let's try this again. Hey. Oh, thank you, Biscotus. Okay, so you can see what we've got. We've got all our resolve ID calls, which are actually quite a lot. And we should also have no file URLs. Oh, right, we're not actually resolving a file URL at this point. Okay. Now, Vite processes all assets, and it does a number of very, very interesting things, but it's very much someone's trying to get my attention. It's very much sort of taking full control over assets, which obviously Vite has to do in a lot of different ways. So if you have a look at the the Vite repository, there's an assets, the Nuxt guy. That's me. Hi. Nice to meet you, Sean. So we have our assets plugin here, which is, where is it? Yeah, it's too much. This is what I do find the inbuilt Git environment incredibly useful for doing this kind of searching. So it does download an index of the project, like a code index, just when the first time you load it. And then you can actually perform like searches with regular expressions and other kinds of things directly in here. So what I'm looking for is downloading. Where is it? Okay. Think this might be it. Great. So basically, Vite already processes quite a lot of assets in your project. So for example, if we had this as an example, and we just specified a local font, and we called our playground, built our playground, you should see that alongside a warning that it can't resolve it, it actually should, we should actually have access to the font resolve call. Why am I not seeing that? Maybe load. Tom, hello. Nice to see you. Oh dear, what have I done? Okay, so what the what the Vite plugin is doing is actually replacing. Yes, Tom. Yes, I'm very interested in the answer to this particular question. Like how quickly is this coming? Is there a problem? What is it?
I need to run in.
Why did you run in?
I want the measuring tape.
The measuring tape? Do you know there's some in a box upstairs?
We could go find a different one, but Puppy is using that one.
Nettie, there are two in a box upstairs. Back in just a sec. There are two in a box upstairs. Two special measuring tapes. Do you want to go find them? There's still Here's.
You think we should find a measuring tape just for Ned to use and measure things with?
That's a good idea. So at the box at the top of the stairs, there are 2 measuring tapes.
Are those the round ones?
I
Those are
think,
the right one.
I think so.
Um, what's this?
I don't know.
Why did this go to?
Ah, you've pulled it all the way, almost all the way through. Sorry, team, just one bit.
What do those?
Do you think you can go and get measuring tape and then come back and show it to me? How about that? I'm going to pick you up onto my lap. Okay. So what we are going to do is... Right, what are we doing? What are we doing? We're having a look at what Vite is doing. So I think our Vite plugin here, render asset URL. Now we actually render asset URLs in a number of different places. So there is a Vite hook. So you can set a experimental... now this is actually called quite a bit later in the process. But there is a render built URL function that we actually set in Nuxt, and this enables us to have a dynamic asset URL that can be set at runtime. So let's see. So we basically have a number of different things in this render built URL function. So we can, what do we have? We have an ID. The file name, the type, and then some various options. And in Nuxt, we basically you can return like relative from here. So you can basically say it's going to be relative true, and so then it's going to render all URLs relative to the actual directory of your project.
Why is it not going through?
Is it just the last bit that isn't going through? Maybe there's a little kink in the wire. So for example, if we were to do this, and this won't actually work because we don't have anything in the our assets folder. So let's not change the volume too much.
Also, then
The volume was going up and down when you turned that wheel. The switches, by the way, are...
is this a gate button? What's this button?
Gateron Pro
It's
Ground.
just a button.
That's right. Oops. Things were starting mysteriously.
What's this button?
That is a meta button.
What's this button?
That's a comma.
What's this button?
That's an N.
What's this button?
Is a B.
What's this button?
That's a G.
What's this?
That's an H.
What's this?
J.
This.
They're all so many buttons. Look at all those buttons.
What's these buttons?
What I'm going to do, Ned, is I'm going to come and eat your toes.
Why?
They're the tastiest bit of the person.
But I have to crack some.
Good job. Ugh.
It's
I'm going to wipe off your last tears, okay?
and the nose.
And the nose too?
It's the last bit of nose.
Yes. Well, let's try the inside of the shirt.
My nose is almost empty.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost empty.
Mm-hmm. Almost empty. Okay.
I have a bit of soup.
There's no soup left.
Should we bring this cup to the kitchen? Maybe?
What this soup sounds?
Okay. Bye, Neddy. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
The
Quick,
last
last cuddle. Okay, Mike, where are we? Where are we? What is going? Yes, exactly. Right, I'm not even sure what I'm doing. What am I doing? I am looking for... okay. So, right, we are generating URLs. Yes. Okay, now in the, okay, what is even going on? So what we want to do is basically, we're just going to log out the file name, just to get a feel for what's happening and where it's happening. Okay, so we have some file names, right? Or we don't because they're not resolved. Let's try resolving some stuff. We should have a look at some font off2 will create. Hey, nice to see you. Come on, why is this not running? We have the file. We should render, did I not save that? Possibly. Okay. What am I doing here? Oh, I think we replaced this in a hook. Let's try doing this all in a module, which is probably where we should have started. That's not doing anything because we're basically overwriting it with Nuxt. So if we were to do that, other than just to log it, you would need to merge them. You'd need to sort of combine them somehow. So we can basically do Nuxt hook vite extend config and basically set it at this point. So we're going to ignore the plugins. We're just going to set this config experimental render built URL equals. And that should allow us to just log it out. That's all we care about for the moment. Okay, that should be good. Okay, so you see what we're logging out. So we have access to this file name and it's telling us like it needs to point to something. Now, if we don't have that font anymore, if we don't actually have something in the directory, then it's going to be, it's going to warn us again. And it's not going to call the same asset URL because it's, as far as vite is concerned, it's not actually an asset that's here. So there are a couple of ways of resolving this for us. So there's one, there's the possibility to hook in more deeply into the actual vite asset plugin. So this is by the way how vite does it. So it basically has a resolve ID function, which again looks to see if the ID is inside the public directory. And if it's not a public directory, it specifically cannot handle it. Now our asset plugin is injected here. And we have normal plugins which are injected after. But we can put something in that is resolved before the asset plugin. So we should be able to do something like this. Config.plugins. I think push should be just as good. And actually just add that plugin that we wrote before a moment ago. Okay. So we're pushing this and there we have it. So this, again, we've moved it to pre, but actually probably what we want to do is rather than have the whole plugin one way or another, we can actually use the object syntax for the resolve ID hook. And then basically have a handler like this. and we probably then want to set the order here. So we actually have an order, and we can say pre. And that will specifically make the resolve ID run at a different time. And we're going to throw out the rest. We're just going to console log the ID like this. And you see everything is flowing through, right? Let's see if, where's our failure? So it's transforming the CSS there. Where is the actual? It's not 100%. I'm not 100% sure that it is going to call it with our font. Basically, by default in Nuxt 3, everything is modern in that sense, because Nuxt 3 requires proxy support, which bumps the minimum browser version quite far. There is a tiny gap between browsers that support proxies and browsers that support ES modules in the browser. But basically, the previous modern legacy format is really based around module support in the browser. And that was part of how it worked. So there are a couple of modules, a couple of browsers that don't support the module preload loading of scripts that Vite outputs by default for Nuxt. And they're going to become fewer and fewer as time goes on. They're very, very few at the moment, a tiny, tiny proportion, and they're going to become even fewer. It's possible to use the Vite plugin legacy to handle that, but we've decided not to support it natively in Nuxt, not to support the legacy format natively in Nuxt, because the amount of work related to the number of browsers that might benefit is few and getting fewer over time. So I think one of the things that we are going to need to be, we have Nuxt plugin object format. What we might need to do at this point is, so where do we have it? So basically our asset plugin comes here. Why is our why are we not? I feel like something somehow not entirely sure about why I'm not being called with the ID. But I think it must be somehow the fact that this is CSS that we're looking at. So I think, you think the plugin also needs pre? That, good thought. Okay, let's try that. I think it's to do with the fact that it's CSS, and CSS is being treated differently. So it's being I think the CSS is being processed at the stage of emitting the asset rather than at the stage of like loading it. So if we were to go back to our app.view and do this instead, import font URL from. Okay, so if we were to do that. And I'll also do this just to show the same. Import local font URL from, there we go. So basically this will work in Vite. Well, I say work, it's not going to work. But what it is going to do is call the ID. What is happening? Why did that just build? That shouldn't just build, right? Let's just check out the WAF. Oh, nothing is happening with them, so let's log them out. Okay, so Rollup is failing to resolve these, and you also see that it's being called with the IDs there. So the great thing is that we are able to handle this easily. We can also handle the other by transforming the CSS at the appropriate point. But basically, we want to handle them as early as possible through the resolution step. Because what we want to do is enable tree shaking and processing. So basically, imagine, for example, we have a couple of strategies. So we want to be able to switch strategies for assets on and off based on patterns for the ID in this particular case. So for now, just to sort of provide us something that sort of makes a little bit of sense. So we will do something like should bundle is going to be yes. Const should, we'll have strategy public bundle proxy. And again, these will need to be sort of matcher functions, but you're basically going to be able to get a strategy for a file name. But for now, we could have some different behavior here, or maybe something like, yeah, this is all going to have to be extracted anyway. So this is very much not how we're going to do it. But the point is, what we want to say is, okay, we'll say bundle. So we'll treat it like the bundle, and we'll say like ID includes WOF2. That's just a sort of shortcut. Hey, nice to see you, Ali. Okay, so should bundle, and we can basically do it at this point. So if should bundle ID, then we're basically going to have to, and this also would mean and ID and has protocol ID, something like that. In other words, this isn't just a local file. And so we would want then to be able to say, okay, so we're going to bundle this now. And we're probably going to want to do that in, we'll have a const temporary directory. Is going to be, we're going to join Nuxt options router, node modules, cache assets, something like that. And pathé, please. And then we're going to create it. So await fsp dot import fsp from node fs promises, and then we should be able to create that directory, and we'll use recursive true in case it doesn't exist, in case a parent directory doesn't exist. You're not too late. We're only just starting, like you can see all the code on the screen. And we're building Nuxt assets. So we're figuring out how to make remote assets part of the Nuxt build. From scratch. So there are, so basically, if we have an ID that that should be part of a build, we're going to have like a map or something like that. So asset map is new map. It's going to be a string, and it's going to be a promise of a string. I think that makes sense. And so we're going to basically asset map set ID, and we're going to need a new no, I think we basically set the ID and then a promise for the new location. So we're going to say this. We're going to download it to this temporary directory. So, and then we are going to return the path to the file. So it would be something like this. Import. Not sure why my computer suddenly went slow. I'm terrible at this. Okay, probably we want to be, do we want to do it natively from like node? We could basically get, I think we can get. we'll refine this later, right? So, hey, nice to see you. I think just for simplicity, I'll implement this with streams a little bit later on, but just for simplicity, we'll pull in fetch from ofetch and use it here. So const data is await fetch ID, and we're going to want to get response type will be array buffer. Yep. And then we're going to write that to disk. So await fsp.write file data. Oh, we're going to need a UUID or a hash maybe. So import let's see, hash from ohash. And we are also going to need to, I think that's probably fine. What will we do? Parse URL from UFO. So let's see, we'll get the file name here. So const file name is parse URL ID. Path name, and then we're going to use the utility from path called file name, which is just going to grab the last bit of that URL. Oh yeah. And then we're going to want to create a hash. This will be opt-in. So if you don't need this, you can opt out of it. So we're going to, and yet again, we're going to call file hash is hash data. I think we should be able to pass an array buffer in, but we'll see. And can I specify the length? I think I might just have to slice it. Okay, so we have a short hash, and so our file name is going to be, we're going to join the temporary directory and the we probably need to get the extension as well. Maybe we don't. Maybe you won't want to split this, but anyway, I'll just hard code it. So we'll basically write file, replace the last bit of this with the file hash plus the last bit of it again. And then we're going to write data. Wait a sec. There we go. And then we're going to return the path. Okay, so that should give us like a little, when it's requested, it if we're going to want to avoid doing this more than once. So if asset map has ID, then return, we're resolving it. So we're just going to return the ID. Otherwise, we're going to set the asset map, and then we're going to return the ID. So basically, this should mean then that when we come to load it, we are able to do this. Namely, we can await the promise. So file, so contents, await, on this particular case, this is interesting because actually the way you load, like if you're loading a file from disk, you want to return the ID, not the the contents of the file. If asset map has ID, then I think we might just return the ID. And then maybe at generate bundle, we await all of them. Let's try this. Oh. I think this is going to do terrible things for us. I don't think it's going to work, but let's see. Archetype, hey. I very nearly considered building a type snapshotting thing. Oh, it needs to be... I very nearly considered doing a type snapshotting project. I have in mind, in the back of my head for quite a while. Yeah, that's... The thing is, they'll already be all resolved by this point. But yes, you're perfectly well. You're perfectly right. Okay. It's the sum font thing that's not working. Let's just get rid of that for now. It needs to be a buffer, typed array, or data view. Oh, for goodness sake. We want to convert an array buffer to a buffer. I hate these kinds of things. That's why I wanted to do it with a stream. Let's do this with a stream, right? I hate streams. Every time I have to look up how it works. So can we do this with native node? Is that going to be any better? What are we going to want? We're only going to get an array buffer back again. Okay. Is that going to work? Probably not. Oh. Okay, it did something. It did something. So what did it do for us? We have that is only there because of this. Let's ignore that for the moment. We probably also have that file name somewhere in our build. So we should have it here. Let's just, when I'm wanting to sort of debug stuff, I often will do basically set minify false. Just gives us a little bit better sort of code. Now, actually, that file isn't, so nothing will happen. So it won't be in the source, but we should have something here. So we should have a WAF2. Interesting. Why do we have that? Oh, because we're returning the ID. We don't want to do that. We want to await asset map, get ID, and return that. We also can do one more thing, which is that we have this temporary directory, and so we can actually add it to our Nitro asset directory. So Nuxt options, Nitro public assets, push, and have a new directory called which is the temporary directory, and it's going to be, we'll give it a base URL of what do we think, assets, and it should have a max age of a lot. So we just like 86. I don't know. I've just given it a name, an amount. Okay, so that should include it in the build. This should return the path. Let's see what it's doing for us. Okay. Good news. We have a file in the build, which is simply one long hash. And I'm not even convinced that it is the correct format. So let's just see what's going on there. Oh, it is. So we have saved it correctly. And we should have in our entry an assets. Okay, there we go. We have our assets thing. Except we don't want it to be the full URL. We actually want it to be the rendered URL. So we want to do something more like let's see. We would probably use render built URL actually. I'm thinking about it. But for now, we can do and we also somehow need to have a little look at what's going on with the file name. So basically, we should have let's try that. It needs like a perfect ligature, doesn't it? Like some kind of an equal on top of an array or something like that, or on top of the bars. Okay, so we should now have assets. So we now have a better URL, and that will actually point to something that works on the generated file. But what we want to do is, let's just try this quickly. Path utils, file name, test thing.waf2. I don't want the file name. I do want the file name, but I also want, I'll use X name as well. So Okay, there we go. So now we have our WAF2. Wait a second. Oh, that's because this whole thing, it's already hashed. So okay, so there is our file hash. We have our extension. We're going to need to clear our temporary directory. So wait. Okay. What am I doing wrong there? So I want to remove the directory, but I guess I need to remove the contents first. Let's try that. It's only deprecated in remove directory. Okay, there we go. So we're clearing the directory, we are creating the directory, and then we are filling the directory with things in the build. Okay, so now this is not a replacement yet for like loading fonts. So because basically what we would want, or is it? It probably is a replacement for things like fonts, because you don't process them. So we can just use a module that gives the URL. But it won't be a replacement for things like JavaScript. So for example, this is maybe an example of the build, like the bundle strategy. So let's just access unpackage and say what we want to do is pull in like this file. So we can access this here like that. So this is going to give us a raw JavaScript. Now, what happens if we want to import that? Maybe Kit is a bad example because you don't really want that to be part of your build. Let's find something we do want. We are happy to be part of our build. So say we, for example, were pulling in this file. I'm going to make it simple. We are going to have to support relative imports, but I just want to start with something that doesn't have any relative imports. It just has some exports. So this file meets that pattern. So what we want to do at this point is import A, I guess. And that's going to be normalized string, which is going to return a string. So we can pass it in a string, and it's going to return one back. So what we want to be able to do is do A, here we go, and then maybe it's going to have a backward slash and then a forward slash. Okay, that's not going to work, right? For several reasons, but it's definitely not going to work. Oh, it's First reason it's not going to work is that what it's going to do, it is going to download this thing and return a, oh no, it's not a WAF, so we're not even in the scope of what we've written so far. So what that's going to do is throw an error. This is an external dependency. How can we import this remote URL? And what we want, we shouldn't be using should bundle, we should be should public. We want a should bundle, and we're basically going to say, so we are going to say if it includes Pathe and it has protocol, because this is just dummy data, right? So we're going to try this again. So if should bundle ID, then we are basically going to want to make this part of the build. So we're going to do extremely similar work here. So that's fine if the asset map is present. We'll return it. Otherwise, we are going, actually, I think all of this should be fine, except that we're not going to hash it. I think we could probably do that. The only difference here is if should bundle ID, then we're going to do a little bit different work. So if we should bundle it, then we are actually going to want to return the contents of the file. So like that. Is that going to work? Oh, it's not going to work, but only because we kept that browse in. Let's remove that. And now it should be just a pure text file, I think. Okay, so we just built a file, and we actually need it to be a different directory now that I think about it. But we built that, and so what we actually should have in here is, what did I, font URL? There we go. So we have this normalized string function, and guess what? It's bundled. So it's part of the build now. Now we're going to want to do a little bit different work. As I said, we want this not to be in the same directory, so because it's not public, it's bundled. So we need to have a public dir, and then we also want to have a bundle directory, bundled assets maybe. And we want to do the same thing here. And then we want to, we'll probably extract this out, but for now I'm just going to do it twice for simplicity. And we are going to want to put this in the public directory. The bundle directory. And we're not going to hash it. Or are we going to hash it? No, we don't need to hash it because it doesn't, it's not going to be made part of the public part of the build. In fact, we probably only need to include the file like this. Beautiful. Okay. So that should work, and it should now not be part of the distributed assets. It should just be, yep, super wet. It's always good, I think, to start with wet code before you make it dry. That's my hot take for the day. Wet code is a positively good thing until you have a reason not to. not to. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so we're resolving IDs. We're resolving remote IDs at this point, and we're including them as part of the build. That's not bad, right? So what do we now need to do? And this is probably, I think we would probably want to know whether something was loaded or not. So just the fact that something was resolved doesn't mean it actually makes it into the build at the end of the day. And so we probably would want to remove them from the directory if they were not resolved. So I think we probably want to probably would want to do something a little bit more. So maybe there's going to be a promise, but maybe there's also going to be something like a resolved flag to do track usage in project and remove unused files from directory. Right, what were the actual parts of the RFC that I should have a look at? So we have a couple of different strategies. Oh, we have a proxy strategy as well. And yes, we have rules. So a regular expression is the best, is the simplest bit of that. Yes, just to be clear, this already exists. The relative imports and other modules also, exactly. So we started off with one that just had everything there, but what you want to be able to do is also the resolve here. So if should bundle importer, then you're going to basically want to do the same thing, like this. ID equals join URL importer ID. Oops. And we would want to do something like ID match. Also, we won't do this in line, we hoist this out, but we would want to basically say it's got to start with a relative path. And in that case, we're going to be able to actually resolve it further before going on anymore. So that should mean we can now directly import from the index. So let's try that. We could do, and we want to export not A this time, but, well, let's try just resolve, okay? Is that going to work? No, it's not working. What's going on here? Oh, probably. That's the only code we changed, right? Okay, why is that failing? Okay, it's not to do with that. It's something else that I changed without realizing it. So, what have I done? What have I done? Let's see. could not read. Have I made a change anywhere else? No. Have I changed? Oh, maybe I changed this enforce pre. I took that away, I think. Let's try this once more. Okay, yeah, I did. Okay, so now it's falling at this, which is intentional. Let's try that. Join URL. We should be able to do this. So I think the problem is that we're getting this, we're getting that. That's the issue. So the problem is we basically need to maybe add this, and ideally we want to do something more like resolve. So we want to fully resolve URL maybe. Yeah, let's try that. Okay, so that has, I think, worked. Let's see, is it going to work? So when we hit our endpoint, we're expecting something to be logged, and oh. There we go. So we are actually getting the normalized, like we're running a file that has been loaded over the network. And that's cool, right? So it's been treated as part of the build. And the interesting thing is you could do some other kinds. Yeah, exactly. So we've just built Dino. But it does actually open up some interesting possibilities, although it also raises some interesting security issues, because you should be very, very, very careful about including random JavaScript as part of your build, pointed to by a URL. So let's just take a moment to consider that. So what would be a helpful next step? So basically we have this sort of bundle. We have public assets, and we want to build proxied assets as well. Might be a helpful thing. So basically what we want to do in this particular case is, okay. What would we want to do? Oh, let's just very quickly call this. To change this first. Exactly. Yes, that's precisely what we would do, Reaper. Just just connect the end user's browser directly to some, who knows, that is up there. Okay, let's see, what do we have? We've got our, yeah, okay. Oh wait. Oh no, that's expected. Right. So okay, I'm just catching up with where we are. So we basically have we have a couple of directories. One is part of the bundled part of the build. One is sort of directly added as a public asset, and I'm trying to think. I think public assets we would always want them to be. I guess let's grab the render built URL thing from the Vite config, and we'll just actually use here the config resolved, just in case any plugin does something with it. So we can basically pull this out. We also want this to work with Webpack, so we do have to be too careful about doing things that are too specific to Vite. But we should be able to say that this is, we'll just call it user config. It's not exactly correct. Is there a name for this? Resolved config, thank you. Great. And so what we want to be able to do is this config dot or resolved config dot experimental dot render built URL. We know it exists, and we're going to pass it in the it's going to be a little bit more complicated than that. So we're going to hit it with the URL, with the path, I guess. Do we want to hit it with the path? Because that's it wants to have the file name, I guess. So probably we would pass it in the URL like this. And we probably also, what else do we want to do? We have to have the options object, and so it needs to have some information here. So we've got a type, and it's going to be a public, host ID, host type, and SSR. So SSR is going to be straightforward. It's going to be resolved config.ssr, I think. Oh. Actually, we'll just use this. Host type is going to have to be whatever the type of our importer is. This is going to be CSS, HTML, or JS. So basically is CSS, importer, CSS, is JS, importer, JS, or is HTML. I think actually we might default to JS and basically say something more like, we have is CSS utilities in Nuxt, but for now I'll be use is CSS, is JS utilities, but we'll just do importer.match. Really, we shouldn't be rendering the built URL yet. I think that's actually a very interesting point. We should not, the way the Vite Assets plugin does it is they have a hashed URL, and then what we do is we replace that when the bundle is actually rendered. And so that's why that's when a lot of this can be done, I think. So it's probably wrong to do it at this point. We'll probably keep it like this for now. At generate bundle stage. But this is probably fine, like in dev mode. But probably what we would do in dev mode anyway. So we could try that. And then what we would do here is we would generate a hash. So we would basically need a second map as well. So const asset hash map. And basically we would do something like this. Actually we could skip the awaiting at this point. So basically, we could, what could we do? We need the path for those two. So if it's not options dev and not should bundle ID, then we can early return with we can early return with the hashed asset and render the URL, and that way we don't have to await anything. Hey, hello. Bundle TS and execute in Node. Yes, we do. We have Jitty. So it is this. I think that's what you want, right? So runtime TypeScript in Node. It actually uses Babel under the, look at that, used by 1.1 million projects. Weirdly, like more than you might expect. For some of these things, you're like 940 people have started. Puya wrote this, by the way. 940 people have started. 1.1 million use it in their projects. Like, it's just such a big, like a huge difference between the two of them. Like a Defu is another example, although that is like a little bit closer. 243K is a lot. 1.1 million projects using Jitty. It's just mind blowing. Okay, so what we want to do is just directly return a hashed asset. So const UUID is get random UUID. Or for safety. Or what do we want to do? UUID is fine. Or I could just use get random UUID. I'm sure it's, or maybe it's just a global. It's globally available, isn't it? So I'll do nanoid or UUID. I'll do UUID. Okay, so basically what we could do at this stage, we need to store it in our asset hash map. Yes, we do very much have to call UUID. You are quite right. But let's see what the import is. Do I actually need... I should have done nanoid. I think I have to install a separate types package for UUID, and that is a sufficient reason not to do it. V4. V4? That's a thing, right? What is the... Oh, it's nanoid. Okay, so let's see. So we've got our path. We have our... Oh, we need to add it. So... And we have our options on our bundle. And basically we can do something like... The problem, Ali, is the types for it. So I think they were missing. So you see that the actual UUID doesn't have any types. So I could have installed types UUID, which does exist, but I was just annoyed by the fact that there are no types. And so I switched to nanoid. Okay, so we have our pattern, and basically we can look up the real path at this point, and we can also generate the URL. So we would do something like for const file in bundle, const chunk is bundle file, and basically if chunk... And I would probably want to handle this in both CSS and JS. So what we would want to do... I see, sorry. No, I will always use your libraries. Okay, so if chunk type is asset, then we're going to want to handle it in one way. If chunk type is chunk, so JavaScript, we're going to handle it in a different way. So we will basically, chunk.code equals chunk.code replace. We might be better off doing a for const match of chunk.code match all pattern. Chunk.code replace match o with await fetch file map get asset hash map get match 1. Now, I'm going to just do some evil and declare they're going to have stuff there. And then I think that should work for chunks. Let's see. If that works. the thing about type errors is that they're about safety. So, no, it didn't work. And that's half of the thing about it, right? So if something isn't working, or if something doesn't give you the safety, then there is a reason to do something else. I wish I was your dad. That's very nice of you to say. It is definitely easy to write the type, but it is a little bit of extra friction if you're wanting to do something quickly. I think that's what I would want to say. What have I done wrongly here? I should be using magic regex, right? Oh, that is what I did wrong. Still not. And let's just quickly check. I'm guessing the issue is it's not matching for some reason, which is strange. So I'm pretty sure it should match. Oh, we're never setting it. Still, wait. Okay, now we do actually have an issue. So what did we set this to? So we set the entire value so we don't actually need to track that. There we go. Okay, so that is what we wanted. Oh, except that we still need to normalize it to be this URL. And this isn't actually quite correct yet because we still need to use the render built URL. But what we should actually have at this point is at least the path. And oh, we don't want the file name. We want the actual full. Base name, I think. Okay, so I think we're going well at this point. We need to call render built URL. So that is the path. So render resolved config experimental render built URL, and we're passing it the file name, and it needs to have some other things. So it needs to have host ID is going to be needs to be something. and SSR and type. Okay, so SSR is going to be is server. Host type is going to be CSS, HTML, or JS. Oh, thank you, Reaper. See you later. Host ID. That's going to be the, I think the file. Host type is going to be file ends with HTML. A file ends with .css. Or we're just going to assume it's JS, which actually it should be if it's a chunk. So I think we can just say JS. And the type is going to be asset or public. And this is always going to be a public asset for fetched files. So let's just see what the result is going to be, like with the Nuxt result. I think probably we're going to say it's going to be we're going to get a URL like this one. Yeah, that's right. So we would want to call it with this URL, I think. Try that. And then we would stick that in there. So if rendered, so let's see. So because rendered URL can return a not a string. So if it's a string, that's great. We're going to use it. But it can also be an object. So it could be like relative or runtime. Or rendered URL dot relative, then it should be, we should be able to render it in relation to the base URL of the project. So we would do something like relative file URL, I think. Or the original URL, I think we can. Okay. Aha. Presumably, so we're obviously calling runtime. Why are we doing that? So this is Nuxt. So we've got render built URL here. And we're basically, oh, if the host type isn't JavaScript, or if the type is asset, but we shouldn't actually be doing this. Oh, it has a runtime. It's weird. So why is it returning? I bet I have got missing a, there we go. Let's try that. Oops. That's right. Oh, but it shouldn't be, it doesn't need to be stringified anymore. So instead it would be something like this and something like this. It's still not going to be right because I think it's missing the assets prefix. Oh, there's several reasons it's not right. Let's see. Right, so what have we got? So it's coming back with a runtime value, and we passed it the URL, which is a little bit more complicated. So let's just work out what's happening here. So we have our rendered URL, or we are using the runtime, or if that fails, we are using the relative path to calculate that out. So let's just see what this rendered URL is. Because it should just be what we passed in. Oh, we shouldn't be passing that in. We should be passing in the URL here. Like that. That's the host ID. And this host ID should be the file that's in the bundle. Let's try that. Ooh. I am very interested in that. I would be very happy not to have to build the project, because that I think is something that would be fantastic. Oh. Join. Come on then. This is not right. So why is it just passing that? I worry that so this is obviously not getting anything. So okay, so this is what the issue maybe is. Oh, now because these are part of the right. What is it? Question that. And then that, right? Yeah, there we go. It's fully resolved. Oh no, it's not matching it. Oh, because we do need to match it. So we need to match it, but then we need to grab the bit in the middle for the purpose of looking up the ID. So we'll just try that. And we should add some error handling here. So if nothing comes back, we are at least not rendering invalid URLs. But there we go. So that's correct. So that at runtime should give us the actual path of the assets if we're on a different base URL, basically. Okay, cool. So this is the context, and this context is based on the file of the chunk. So we can actually do it here. So pop it in there, and we can make this a little bit shorter. And the context needs to be, it's defined here as, I think we're going to have to grab it from that. So There we go. So, cool. This all feels fine. Oh, I think if it will have to stringify this, I think. So if we're given a rendered URL, I think we stringify it. I think that is what it is. But if it's runtime, then it's the just whatever is provided. And otherwise it is this. Okay. I'm sure there's some stuff that we might need to do about nested quotation marks or things like that that we might need to handle. But basically that should be fine. So we are basically replacing them where they're used. And that actually handles the fact that we need to await it at generate time just fine. And if we are running this at dev, does it work? No. So why isn't it working? What is it trying to do in dev mode? So if it's dev mode, then it's going to get this URL. Why would it be? I know it thinks it's a bundled asset. So actually what are we doing here? We're trying to read the file for this. And for some reason that's not written yet. Let's have a little look. Okay, so there's something there, and the path is there, and that's what we're resolving once it's written. So we should be able to come out with Christopher, hello, welcome. You are just in time to see lots of, oh, is the issue that we haven't created it, or that we haven't cleared it? Let's try clearing it. Still trying to open it. Okay, so why is it opening the directory? This is clearly, I'm at some point, I'm sure I'm just returning the wrong thing. So this is bundled, and somehow I'm returning the directory. Okay, it shouldn't be resolve ID. That should be fine. It should be load. Load should be the thing that isn't working. So I'm returning the URL for underscore assets. Or maybe this is the issue. No, this is the issue. Oh, weird. Very weird. Okay, so we have a URL for this is very strange. Okay, so we have a path. We should also have an RID. Let's figure out what's going on here. So we've probably returned an ID that's not right. But it is one that's been fetched. So we've got our Roboto. Aha. I see. I think there's been a slash that's been removed. But anyway, so we've got Roboto. We have the path it's been saved to is not right. Okay, so it should be a public path. We are fetching it. We are creating a path, writing the file to that path, and that should be, the path is undefined dot. So file is somehow undefined, probably because there is no, let's try that again. So we'll just do path name, replace any word characters at the end with nothing. That will just be, we won't use the file name thing. Let's try that. I think that should give us a better file name, but I don't think it will solve the issue. Yes, the CLI has been open sourced. It is accessible at Nuxt CLI. And you are very, very welcome to take a look, check it out. It's open sourced, money. That doesn't mean it's done or ready for release. So take with a word of caution. Is the issue that the path name here isn't right? That the URL isn't being passed properly? Or maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying, Joaquin. Yes, the path name isn't being passed correctly. Like, that's the right ID. Pass URL. And I guess the issue here is that somehow in load. Okay. Something in load that I'm missing. Yeah, so I'm basically only running this when it's built. Otherwise, we are returning the URL directly for dev mode. So we're just bypassing that. I could make it clearer. So we could early return with that. But the issue that, like, it needs to be refactored anyway. But this is basically shared between these two cases. So I only wrote it once. I think the issue here is somehow that somehow we end up having an undefined or empty string path name. So we're writing a file which is that should be fine. I guess that it is being written, so it is there. So the problem is when we're loading it, is that where the issue is? So the file map has the ID. We're coming in here with the ID. We have a path at this point. So we're logging too much. It's messing up the process. Okay, so basically okay, we have an ID, we have a path, it shouldn't bundle, so we are hitting down here and we're calling the URL is the base name of the path. And we're logging out the URL path and the ID. And the issue is that we have the no, this is totally fine. The issue is that Nitro is trying to do something with the bundle directory. Why is Nitro doing something with why are we doing something with the bundle directory? Where do we do anything with that? That should only be if we're bundling the file. So that's basically at this point. So let's try logging it there. Okay, I think that's probably the issue. It's not here at all. We are probably parsing it wrongly, and maybe there's an undefined or empty. Okay. So we're writing to this path. Aha! Yeah, we're writing to that path, and it needs to pass the file name, and there is no file name for some reason because we've not passed the URL properly. So it's the same root issue. So why is the URL not being passed? Because it doesn't have, it has, like there's an extra slash that's missing. So the issue is the slash is missing in dev. So what we're going to want to basically do, so if ID starts with HTTPs like that, we're just going to normalize it out and say ID equals ID replace. Yep, Tailwind is a good start on that one. I would agree. Okay, that's a bit better, I think. I think. What is it actually fetching? Have I put too many? Huh. Beautiful. Okay, so we are actually now getting our page. Should get our page. And, oh, module script. Oh, because on the client side, this is actually being rendered a little bit differently. So on the client side, this import is, how is it resolving? It's resolving as a JavaScript file, I think. Or maybe it's being loaded a little bit differently. But basically, on the server, this is fine. So we are loading out the asset URL, local font URL, and the normalized path. On the client side, it's not so good because we have loaded this as something else. So we have, so it is, what's not working, it's the public file, and we are I think it might be that we have to normalize it here as well. Let's try that. Like this is being preserved unchanged in the script, I think. Yeah, it's being preserved unchanged. And probably the way to do it would be to do some kind of let's just see why it's not working, right? That's the main thing. So at some point, debugger is great. It basically stops the execution and allows you to inspect something. It is fantastic. Great, so we're getting our module there. It should be failing here. Interesting. Okay, so that is working. As in, this is the it's importing Pathe, which is what we expect. Yeah, it works with any browser. Yeah, this is VS Code. This is my VS Code. Let's try not resolve. And let's just try normalize. Okay, now why is this? Okay, the response here is basically just not transforming it. So why isn't it transforming it? Like that's what I want to know. This plugin should be running, right? It should be resolving this. Maybe I just have to transform it earlier on. Oh, console log for the win, absolutely. I'm a total fan of that. Okay, well, absolutely. Hey, thank you. You are doing good work there for me. Let's see. Okay. And we're calling it early on. We're just basically totally bypassing it. And I think that might be... Maybe we just have to transform it. Okay, so... But only in... We're going to have to transform it anyway, because we're going to want to be transforming like imports into CSS as well, for example. But I was just hoping it would be a little bit easier. So we have got here our code, our importer, and wait, our ID, I think. So what if I do raw? Doesn't make any difference. It is just directly. Oh. It won't make any difference either. That would still be interpreted as, from the browser's perspective, as a remote URL. So I think we just have to replace it. Annoyingly. So basically, if Nuxt options dev and not is server, then Oh, yes, I vanished. Apologies. It's doing its weird thing. Okay, so basically we would want to do exactly the same thing that we do down here, except it has to be awaited in the browser, so it's a little bit... no, I think we just give it a prefix. So we would do something like... and this is also not how we'll do it. We'll need to do magic regexp and magic regexp and magic string rather for the source maps, and we'll basically replace with like a forward slash, which will be something like Nuxt asset. And I'm just trying to see if I can get this to, let's see, if ID starts with next asset, ID equals ID place. Oh, I wasn't quite sure what you meant. But, you are totally not a noob though. The font does cost. But I do have a recommendation if you want a similar look without paying for it. So there is a nice, what is it, iScript 2. You can get basically a very, very nice, what is it called? Code Sans? Firefox. Fira Sans, right. So you can get a Fira Sans, which I like. I think Fira Sans is a lovely font. And Fira Code, though. Where is it? Fira Code? Yeah. So this is nice, if it's the one I'm thinking about. So Fira Code is lovely. And you can actually get a version of this font together with iScript, a Fira Code iScript. This. So this is what you want. Check out this, because and this is what I used to use before Dank Mono. So it gives you the nice Fira Code, but then it has a nice sort of italic as well. So that is worth a try. I would not have it quite as bold as this, but it supports a lot of weights, so you'll be fine. Okay, so why is this not working? I'm expecting this to be transformed. Oh. Well, that's weird, isn't it? I like JetBrains Mono too. That's lovely. Okay, that's what I'm expecting. And then when it comes to resolve the ID, that's the issue. Okay, I see. There's no problem with the resolve ID. It is being called accurately. The thing is, we're returning the URL, which we shouldn't do basically. So I think we do this. We basically can move this into our load step. And what we want to do is replace the ID at this stage with Nuxt asset plus the ID. And that's going to stop it from being a normal import. So we would basically do this. Let's try that. Okay. Well, that's interesting. So the error here is being thrown by VeetNode, and which is strange because I would expect VeetNode. I think we might need to make this a pattern to be transpiled. Let's try that. Nope. Maybe Nuxt options config.ssr. No external push Nuxt. Hey, nice to see you. I agree. I think little things like fonts that make, as long as it's not taking all of your time, I actually think it makes a big difference to your experience. In the same way as it matters something about the room you're in or the what is around you. Your environment makes a big difference to how you feel, I think. Okay, why is this? Do I need to use a different pattern? So something like virtual, maybe? Because we already have special treatment for it. Okay. Well, oh, I guess we also need to handle it here, like this. We're probably replacing it twice. Oh, that is a nice thought. Is that what you did? Okay, so I think things are back up and running now. For goodness sake. They're not up and running because we should be not importing it from there? Why are we importing it from there? Your leet code clone. What is your leet code clone? Okay, we're going to try this again in case that is the issue. Yeah, you can check out the oh, it's not pinned anymore. Maybe it's too long ago. But basically, we have an RFC. Rats, I'm going to have to go. But this is the RFC, which is going to basically handle like Nuxt asset loading. So you can proxy assets, bundle them, and add them to your public assets, remote assets, that is. And it's also going to cover local ones too. So you can do things like specify preload patterns and things like that. Anyway, lots to do, and a lot done so far. So thank you everyone for joining me. I'm going to have to duck out, grab some fresh cup of tea, and I've got a meeting in a few minutes. But and I am going on. What is this color? This theme. Check this out. I'm also going to go off and on holiday for a couple of weeks, so I may not be streaming then. So if you're missing me, let me know. And who knows, we might do something. We might do something at some point. In terms of thank you very much. In terms of throw redirect in a composable, you should be able to redirect in Nuxt setup functions. Should not be a problem. And it should work equally well on server and on client. Like, it's there. It may need to be documented, but it does work. That is... Ooh, nice. I like it. That's the theme, I'm guessing. Yeah, good stuff. Thank you everyone for joining. And yeah, David, throw doesn't work. No, you need to call navigate to or send redirect, depending on your use case. And you need to make sure you're doing it in the Nuxt instance. So you would do nuxt app dot run with context or something like that. But anyway, feel free to be in touch on Discord or on GitHub, because I know the issue discussion you're talking about. Good stuff, and yeah, I'll be back in a couple of weeks' time. So not next week, not the week after, but the one after that, probably on Monday. And actually, we'll be going to Germany for We Are Developers Conference later that week. So if you're around in Berlin, let me know. It'd be nice to see you. Good stuff. Oh, before we do go though, let's just see if there's anyone who is streaming that we can all go and say hi to. Montreal. I should do. That would be lovely. I could come back to Toronto again. Okay. Gonna say bye. For real this time. See you later.